This is Mabuku, a local township in Zimbabwe's capital, Harare. Some residents in this suburb say that they have gone for over 20 years without water supply. Others say they've gone without water for 10 years. The main problem is that there's been no water on their taps for a long time and residents have little hope that the situation will improve.
What 19 ndakatanga kunetsa 1999 kana ndisiri mistake asi 1999 tichinetswa nemvura until now mvura iri kunetsa. Inini chinondishamisa ndichekudai isu tinogara kutosiri kumatenga matenga emvura yaya titori muzasi mavo ende kudzara vaimbopa marisensi ekuti magetsi sangani izvinezvi magetsi ariko haasi kuenda mvura yacho hatina.
Dambudziko ratinaro kuno remvura kana ndisingakanganise rakatanga 1995 ndine first born yangu yaane makore akusvika kuma20 98 zvakanga zvawesi 98 mvura yange isatombouye zvachose kubva 98 kusvika ezvinezvi tikutombowacha nemvura yekumasuweji chaiyo yekutoti patangoiwanira tongochera hatichasarudza kuti mvura iyi imvura yerudzii. Ukaenda kuchibhorani unonobata ningirikini line nhasi wozochera mvura mangwana achona of which vana zvikukanganisa magariro evana. Uri mwana musikana anogona kurepwa, anogona kuitwa zvese kumvura ikoko. Saka tine challenge yakawandisa yatetisangana nayo kubudikidza nenyaya yevana vanasikana.
The residents of Mabuku were relieved in 2018 when the city of Harare secured a $144 million loan deal with the Chinese bank Afreximbank to support the rehabilitation of Morton Jeffrey water treatment plant. Their first expectation was that their problem had finally found a solution. Improvements to the Morton Jeffrey water treatment plant were meant to increase its capacity to supply water to its residents. Morton Jeffrey, built before the country's independence, was not meant to cope with an expanding city and the needs of a surging population. According to Combined Harare Residents Association, CRA, Harare is losing close to 50% of its treated water through leakages caused by outdated equipment. A solution was needed so that the city of Harare could maintain its duty to supply water. Whilst residents were waiting for improved water service as a result of the new loan, early 2014, news outlets like the Financial Gazette, Newsday and the Daily News started reporting that the water loan was being abused. Spurred on by news reports and having seen new expensive cars at the water plants, with no improvements in service delivery, residents of Harare became increasingly suspicious of the way the loan was being administered. CRA represents and supports residents of Harare by advocating for effective, transparent and affordable municipal and other services and facilities. When CRA noted the discontent of Harare residents and saw the negative media reports, it decided to organize a protest at the town hall to demand more transparency and accountability from the city council with regards to the loan.
The relationship that we have with the local authority obviously is that of a bridge. That we work with residents and also work with the local authority. After protests at the town hall,
CRA wrote a letter to the mayor of Harare to inquire on the purchase of project vehicles. In the letter, they also requested a spending overview. In response to the letter and ongoing protests, the city council installed a special committee to carry out an investigation into the project. The special committee released a report on its findings in July 2014. The investigations confirmed some of the suspicions by the residents and CRA. According to the report, the project was behind schedule and only 7% of the money had been spent on tangible items. A major concern that annoyed residents was the fact that they had seen high-level council officials acquire top-of-the-range cars for the project. Interestingly, the report shows that the acquisition of project vehicles was the biggest expenditure, yet less expensive cars could have been acquired. According to the report, the cars were not purchased in accordance with the City Council's procurement procedures.
Some of the money was used to buy vehicles, but it was actually within the project arrangement. It was not a diversion. It was not a rerouting of funds. The provision for motor vehicles under the project was in the contract. The dilemma we faced was that I think when the vehicles were bought and brought into the city, there was an attempt to hide them, to conceal them from ourselves as the elected officials. That was not necessary. The vehicles were provided for, number one. Number two, the vehicles were not as expensive as they would be in the market.
When the city is doing activities, we monitor those activities, we review those activities. And when we reviewed those activities, we found that some of the expenditures and some of the actions that were being taken there were outside the budget or were not priorities that could address the issue of water. So we spoke about these issues, we raised concern, and we engaged the city to address some of the irregularities.
Hardlife Mudzingwa from the Community Water Alliance also sees the importance of civil society engagement. He has been a leading advocate for the provision of safe and clean water to the citizens of Harare.
We also organized platforms of dialogue between rights holders and duty bearers to demand accountability in the administration of funds to do with water service delivery. Ultimately, what we did led to the expulsion of Tendai Mahachi.
Council of Harare yakawana loan $144 million. Yekuti vagadzirise iko kuripeya mapaipi ikoko kugadzirisa kuna moto njefu but mari yatoni makore kana ndisingakanga ndisindofunga kutodarika 4-5 vakwereta hapana kana chatiri kuona chiri kuitika kuburikidza nemari yavakakwereta iyo. Chatakangoona chakachinja iwo kufamba nemota dzakanaka, iwo kuita masalaries mari akawanda munhu wani. Takatombomira nenhau iyoyo tikasvika pakudzingisa anonzani Mahachi. Tichatinoziva ndechekuti 144 million ichanzi futi isu vagari tiidzorera nekuti ivo hakuna kwavanombobhadhara mari, inenge ichibhadharwa through isu tinenge ichibhadhara maretsi and yet tikubhadhara maretsi service yacho tisingaiwani.
The local authority, the way it is administrated the fund is not something, it's not acceptable. If you look at again the challenges on awarding of tenders, particularly even for the construction of those 3 warehouses that are at Morton Jeffrey, there was a lot of corruption, over invoicing happening in the local authority. Then in terms of the effects of that on residents, as people who will pay back the money through rates payment, is that they will simply pay for something that they do not benefit from in terms of social service delivery. There is a unlikely possibility that water service provision is going to be improved.
Out of this China project, we are foreseeing an increase in our water supply from our current 410 megalitres per day to 600 megalitres per day. This is about second quarter of next year. That's when the project will be completed.
Whilst the Chinese loan, planned works and promises by the city council could improve the water supply in Harare, residents still believe the city needs to do more to address the problem.
The city of Harare loses close to 50% of its treated water due to water leakages. So if they were to address the underground piping system and clog those water leakages, we would overnight increase our water supply by almost 50%. So that's the first and important step. And then secondly, the water services contribute over 38% a year to the annual budget of the city, and yet it is the service that suffer. So one of the recommendations we are putting forward is that we should ring fence the water budget to ensure that monies collected from the water account are plowed back into developing the water system. And I then think thirdly is a stakeholder engagement where the city, the ministry, which is the government, and other stakeholders must sit down and understand how big the problem is and then come up with a plan, which must then lead into a social contract, because some people don't pay for services, and the reason they don't pay for services is that the water doesn't come regularly.
With all these corruption allegations, residents of Harare City are calling for greater involvement in the running of local authorities. Mayor Manyenyeni believes residents should have a say in how the city is run, either in their individual capacity or through registered associations like RA and many others. It remains to be seen how much the Chinese loan will achieve for the water supply system in Harare. Nevertheless, the case shows how residents' mobilization and action has helped to highlight the city of Harare's excesses and has pushed for more transparency and accountability.